Today we are taking a look at genetics, Binnie's Mod 2.0 in Minecraft 1.12.2. Stay tuned. Also, again, friendly reminder to everybody as before we get started with this video, I have enabled memberships again. We do want to start getting a new modded server up and running for those of you that are interested and that want to be able to play with me on a private modded server, and it will be whitelist only and only available to members. So if you want to check that out, please hit the join button and take a look at what it takes to become a member. Thanks for watching and check out the rest of the video. Welcome friends to a new episode of Feed the Beast Ultimate Reloaded. How are you guys today? I'm Clobberstomp. I'm having a pretty good day. I've done some things. Look at this. We've got a couple hexagons going. Oh, baby. I did some work. So, what do we got here? We've got copper bees. And over on this one, we've got iron bees, I believe. And then over on this one, we've got the tin bees. It's pretty amazing. So, let's go take a look down below, and we can see what those are all about. So, all right, we've already seen the oily bees. We've got the copper bees going. So we've got copper nuggets, some honeycombs, and then the copper drones, and anything extras going in there. Most of which I've already gotten rid of. Iron bees, we've got iron nuggets, the iron bees, and also the honeycombs. Awesome. I still have to clear this all up, but we got a little bit going. And then we've got tin nuggets. Look at that. This has only been running for like a day and we've already got 40 stacks. That's crazy. Crazy, crazy. That's awesome. So, and this has 20, so these don't yield as much, but we can always improve these bees. Don't worry, we're going to. What do we have in these? We've got 83 stacks. So we now have copper and iron and tin all pretty much being made for free right now, which is great. That's super awesome. I've been working really hard. Last episode we talked about bacteria. So we've got growth medium, we've got bacteria, we've got the polymerizing bacteria, and then also the bacteria vector. All of which we've talked about. I've got honey and seed oil going. We've got a whole bunch of DNA now. I've been working hard at squeezing down the bees to get DNA, and we've got a lava one too, so super awesome. Okay, what do we want to talk about today? Well, we want to talk about genetics. Now, we've already talked about the gene pool, and the gene pool is pretty amazing. So what this does is this is the particular machine from Binnie's Mods. That's what we're talking about today, Binnie's Mods. So just for Binnie. So Binnie Core and Binnie Botany and Binnie all of the cool stuff. So there's a lot of neat things that can be done, and this is kind of an extra mod that goes along with forestry. And there's another mod that's similar to it called Gendistry, but this is much more hardcore than Gendistry. It's a lot more difficult. So really what you're going to be focusing on is all of these machines, and we're going to talk about each one today. So the first thing you want to get when you start getting into bees, and we've already looked at this one, is the gene pool. The gene pool, if you fill it with ethanol and some energy and you put some bees in here, what it's going to do is it's going to put it in the tooltip here, and it's going to break down, and then it's going to turn that into liquid DNA. Now, we've already got that going out to go to DNA. So this kind of, every time I put stacks and stacks of bees in here, it squeezes them down, puts the DNA, and it puts it in that big tank down here. And I have that working with a ender tank. So anything that comes into the ender tank comes in here. Now we also have another ender tank, so we can fill another machine up here, and that machine is called the Polymerizer, but we'll get to that later. So There's a few steps that you need. We talked about all of the things to get bacteria and growth medium and all of those sorts of things in the last episode. So if you want to see that, I'll link it. So just take a look at one of the cards. It should be up in the upper right hand corner and you should be good to go. So the first step that you really need to do is you need to get yourself ethanol by doing some of the forestry tree farms, which we have down below. You can see them over there. And then you can create ethanol by changing the biomass from a fractionating still to some ethanol and then ethanol into these machines. Now, once you get yourself a healthy amount of bee DNA, you're ready to start doing, and all of the bacterias down below, you're ready to start getting into bee genetics. And the genetics cover, it covers the trees, it covers the bees, and it also covers flowers, which I don't think we're going to get into any flowers today, but apparently you can get all these different pollens. I have not figured that out yet, but apparently it has something to do with the sieve block. This block here. Nope, frame housing. That did not work. Apparently it's not a Binnie's mod. It's a different one, but apparently you can get the pollen from tree saplings, which I haven't figured out yet, but that's okay. So the first machine that you need to work on after the gene pool is the Isolator. And I'll leave you guys to look all these up. They're difficult to make. They're not super difficult to make, but this one is also one that gets filled with ethanol. And what you do is you take some bees, and we'll take some bees. We'll take one here, and we'll put it in here. And what it will do is now it's going to start running through its tooltip. And you also need enzyme. Now, we talked about enzymes in the incubator with some bacteria. So if we fill that guy with sugar, which you've seen in other videos, I'm not really gonna go into super detail, but in an incubator with bacteria, sugar will make enzyme. Great, we've talked about that in multiple videos before. You guys are already aware of that. You're good. So we do have a fair amount in here, so we'll put that in there and stack that up. But in the isolator with some ethanol, and obviously it has to be powered, you put a bee in here, and what it's going to do is it's going to use a blank sequence to make one of these guys, an Apiarus DNA sequence. Now, I think we can also put saplings in here, which will give us, let's take a whole stack, like so. So we can take some made bees here and we'll put those in there. So after this one goes through its process, and this goes, it doesn't take too long, but it does take a little bit of time. As you can see, since we've been talking, it's about 30%. So this is going to go through, and what it's going to do is it's going to take a blank sequence. It's going to take that blank sequence and it's going to take one of the traits off of these drones. So if you take a drone like so, and then you put it in the analyzer and you analyze it, it's going to take one of these particular traits off the drone. Very cool. Whoops, we don't want to do that. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that guy and we're going to actually put him in the gene pool because we don't need him anymore, and we're fine. So it's going to take one of those traits and then it's going to put it in that sequence. Then what you can do is you can take those sequences, which I have some sequences here. We can take those sequences and put them in a sequencer. Makes sense. And it's going to take a long time. And it's going to take that sequence and it's going to go through its process, and this one's 79% through. And then it is going to put it where? What does it do? It gives you a blank sequence back. Well, what happens to it? Well, the next thing you need to make yourself is a gene bank. So that's this particular device here, and you can make that in a Carpenter. I'll let you guys figure out how to make that, and you can put it on top of a lab stand because I like them how they're bouncy like this. But if you take a look at him and you do this, it's going to put that particular gene into your gene bank. Very cool. So when it finds one of those particular genes that we were talking about and it figures this out, it's going to take that gene and it's going to put it in your gene bank, and it's going to put it in these little species, or these depending on which one it finds, it's going to take that and it's going to put it in your sequence. Now you can see I've got a few things here. We've got rain tolerance, no. Cave dwelling, no. Flowers, pollination, pollination. I always say zation. I don't know why I do that. I'm sorry, but it happens. Slowest, average, and territory and effect. The none effect is really good to have because there's bees that have really bad effects, like the ones that are in the nether, which we've talked about. We can breed the none effect and we can put those on the bees, so then they'll be good and they won't hurt us, which is kind of cool. So, and then right now we've got the serums, and we've also got, the species. We've got oily and cuprum, which is the copper bees, and we've got slower and slowest. As we get more of these traits, it's going to fill them up. You also have yourself something here like slow. You can search. So if you want slow, it'll do slow. So this is going to be super helpful for getting the top grades of all of the traits the bees can have, which is super cool. So this one's going to finish in a little bit, and it's going to put a blank sequence here, and it's going to take that sequence and put it in here. So what I've been doing is I've been taking a full stack of bees, I put them in here, I let it get as many traits as I can, and then I run them through the sequencer to improve and add them to my gene data bank, or gene base, or whatever you want to call it. Your gene bank. Very cool. And as you do flowers and trees, you'll also start to add those things here as well. I've only been really focused on the bees, so that's why that's the only thing there that's populated. But after this bee, and we're done with a few of these traits, we're going to add some of these saplings here as well. So there you go. That one finished. Actually, we're going to take this out, and then we're going to let this one continue on here. And, oh, it's just going to continue on doing its thing. Great. So we'll take that out. We'll put that here. There we go. And now it's going to go through the beech saplings, and it's going to get some beech saplings, which is very cool. So we've got a bunch of these that we have to run through the sequencer. The sequencer takes a long time, and we're at 90%, 98%. So when you see what this is going to do, now you won't see what it finishes over there, which is kind of weird. There's no tooltip or anything. It just gives you a blank sequence back. So when this is done, it'll kick on to the next one. There you go. And now it starts fresh. It's at 0%. So now we can take this blank sequence and put it back over here so it can be used. Very cool. What it doesn't show you is what thing it gave you in your system, unless you're really paying attention, which I think I've pulled every trait that I can off of the bees for the copper bees. So these sequences are, I'm running through them, but I don't really need them because I think I've pulled everything that I can off of these bees so far. That's kind of why that's going, but that's okay. We'll let it run through these other 4, and it'll pull those off, and then I can put those blank sequences back into the isolator. Very cool. Now we're going to start getting some beech sapling traits, which then we can put in here and then run through the sequencer, and they'll add them to our gene bank. Very cool. That's a lot of information really quick to get started in genetics, but this is really what you have to do. You have to get your isolator going and put your bees in here, and it'll pull traits out of your bees or saplings or flowers to, actually, I'm kind of interested. Can we put a flower in there? What is it, a daisy? Let's try a daisy. Let's do this. Let's see. Nope, this doesn't go in there, so I'm not exactly sure. Okay, very good. So apparently those oxydaisies don't work. Maybe some other flowers work. I haven't looked at the flowers, so I'm not exactly sure exactly all of those that really work. But we'll have to get into that. But at least we'll get some of these. Now, oh, this is an arborist one, so that's going to give you one of the tree traits, which is very cool. Okay, the next thing that you need to do, and that one is empty. We'll talk about this machine in a minute. So let's pretend for a minute that you have a trait that you want to put on a bee. So what you need to do is you need to get yourself some serum vials or a serum array. Either one work. And when you click on the gene database, you can see them here in your area. You have your inventory here. So what you can do is, let's pretend for a minute that we wanted temperature tolerance, fertility normal, which I think I already have that. Yeah, I do. just for the sake of doing this. Effect. We want effect. You're going to take one of your serum vials and go bam, and then you can put that on here. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is you're going to take your serum, which is effect none. You're going to take it into your polymerizer, and your polymerizer needs energy. It needs polymerizing bacteria, which is what we did in the last episode, and raw DNA. You can also get yourself some gold nuggets, which will help increase the productivity of this. So what you can do is put your polymerizer or your serum in here, and what it's going to do is it's going to go through and it's going to replicate these genes. And what it's going to do is take some of this DNA and this bacteria and feed it into the serum to give it a charge, because then we'll talk about the next thing. So this goes through, and it goes pretty quick. Now, if you take these out, it slows down. After this goes out, you can see that it would go down really well. But I mean, gold is really cheap, so just use the gold, because you'll see it's tremendously slower. It goes like 50, or it goes like 100% faster if you use that. And now if you look, it has one charge. Cool. So you use the polymerizer to fill this with charges, and then you have 16 charges on this guy, which is great. I've been taking a few. I have oily. I've been taking my species, oily and cuprum, and I'm putting them in here because now I have those bees forever, no matter what. I can just take these and I can use them, and I have them in my gene data bank. I can always use them in some other fashion. So if I wanted to inject a different bee with traits or anything, then be good. Now, the cool thing about this data bank is if you want to do a serum, you can use a serum array, and you can click on multiple ones, and then you could click on at least one of every trait, and you can then fill this up with like 16 traits. Just be aware when you put it in here, it's going to take much longer because it has to do that amount of time per trait. So if you have 16 traits in here, it's going to take 16 times as long. Oh, that's a lot. It's crazy, but it's really neat. So the next thing that you need to do, and this kind of goes down to, remember we were talking about our alvearies. Well, our alvearies had this one block, this hatchery, to get these larvae. Well, we're going to find out exactly what those are for right now. So if you use a hatchery and you pump these out into some sort of inventory, you can take those larvae and you can use them in the bee breeding process when it comes to genetics. So when you take the larvae, what you can do is you put a larvae in the inoculator. You're going to take the serum that you have now, whether it be just one single serum or an array. Now, I used an array because I want to be able to pump my emerald bees. I was having trouble making drones. My original emerald drones only produced one drone, so when it reset, it would just get one drone. I never made more drones, so I can't use those drones to make more emerald bees, which is what I'd like to do. So what I've done is I put in the normal fertility, and I put in better traits than it had before. So I wanted all of these traits to be put on the emerald bees. So what you do is you put them in the inoculator, which requires bacteria vector and some energy. And this process takes forever. Like if we sit here for like 5 minutes, this will go to like here. It'll get to like 73%. This literally takes like 30 minutes to run through this process. It takes forever. So it's really, really time consuming. I don't know how worth it is. If you're doing all bees, I think it's kind of worth it. But if you're just only kind of dabbling with bees, this process is definitely not worth it. Like, because this inoculator just takes forever. As you can see, we've been talking for over a minute, and it's only went up 1%. So 100% times 1 minute, you have 100 minutes. It takes a really long time. Now, that's not completely super accurate, but it takes a good 30 minutes to run through one of these. It's really tough. So the next thing that you need after the inoculator and the polymerizer and I have not figured out what the splicer does, but we'll look at that one. Is you need an incubator. Get yourself an incubator with some growth medium in it and some energy. And you can take those larvae that have been input with your serum and your larvae, and it has injected all of those wonderful traits into the larvae. You can put them in an incubator with some growth medium. It'll take a little bit of time, and it's going to create yourself a bee. And it doesn't take very long. It seems to be somewhat random. I'm not exactly sure how long it takes, but I put one in there once and it like automatically made one. I've put one in there like this one and it's taking a little bit longer. So this process can take however long it takes. So there we go. We've got an emerald drone. Very cool. And this one will take a little bit of time and we'll get that one too. But what's interesting, if we analyze this bee, now you can use the analyzer. This will give us an option to use this other block. We have an analyzer. This is the machine version of the portable analyzer. It's exactly the same thing. We can put this in there. It's going to go through its process and progress. And it doesn't take, it requires you to have dye DNA. And this stuff's not really hard to make. You can look up the recipe for it. And this one also, I forgot, the sequencer also requires fluorescent dye, but these are really easy to make. It doesn't take that much. There we go. And if we take a look at it, it gives us all of the things. Very cool. So look at, it has the normal, it has production is slower, pollination is flowers, or slowest, and then it has flowers and fertility of 2. So now this particular drone will yield more than one drone, which is amazing because I had a bee that relatively wouldn't do anything and I couldn't even get it to work. Unfortunately, like, cause I mean, I was making emerald combs and everything, but I couldn't do anything with those bees because I couldn't make more of them. So now what I've done is I've essentially went through that process with the emerald bees and now I'm getting a surplus of drones. Look at that. I breed them with my emerald princess and now I have the drones. And if we take a look at these, they'll be exactly the same traits as these. And now we can make ourselves emerald combs, which then can make us emeralds. So I need to start breeding these up for a while. Oh, we need some 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And oh, actually, yes, we need more drones. So we're going to fill these all up with frames because we need the drones. We need this to die off as much as possible and create more drones for us. Because then what we're going to do is that new bee area over there, that's going to be for emerald bees. And we're going to fill that whole thing up, which means I need at least 6 stacks of emerald drones to get there. But there we go. That's how we do it. And we've got so much going on. So really what you need to do to start genetics is you need to get yourself a whole bunch of larvae. Now, I've already preemptively done this and without knowing it, this was just a happy accident, is I was pumping those out into barrels. So I actually have a fair number of larvae that I can use to inject traits into. So I can use all of these larvae. I've got all of these larvae, and if I wanted to, I could inject different larvae into them. So I could use, I could make a bunch of copper bees or a bunch of oily bees, and I could inject those into these and then make new oily bees if I wanted. So that's pretty cool. And then like we said, we have the analyzer. Now the splicer, I've not figured out what it does yet. I think, and I could be wrong, if you have a serum, you can take charges off of it, or some of the, where's this? I don't want to finish that. Yeah, as you can see, since we've been talking, this has only went up by 10%. It just takes forever. And this is almost done with its charges anyway, so we're going to have to run it through its polymerizer again, which is very neat. Cool. So there, I'm not exactly sure what the splicer does. I haven't seen that yet. Apparently you can use this to insert genes into individuals. Now if I remember correctly, I tried to put a larvae in there and it didn't work. Oh, it did work. Okay, so I guess you can I wonder if this works similar to this. Oh, wait a second. I think okay, here, let's read these. The Inoculator Serums adds genes to breedable individuals. This process is very slow and requires bacteria vector, but is always successful. So this is 100% chance. This one is not. But it's really fast. So if we wanted to, let's say, take the none effect and put that in this bee. Oh yeah, see how fast it went? Yeah. And it didn't use a charge. So the splicer seems to be interesting. I haven't used it yet, but I believe that's how it works. And here's the other thing. There's an Acclimatizer. So the Acclimatizer uses acclimatizing items to adjust temperature and humidity tolerance of individuals. Now, I'm sure that there's things in here that you need to do. I haven't played around with this one yet either. But if I had to theorize or make a guess, you'd put a bee in here that you want to have, you'd want to be able to manipulate. And then you would put the breedable type of bee in here and the breedable type of bee in here to help it acclimate to whatever biomes those ones particularly work towards. So what we want to do is probably put some of the nether bees in here and get them to acclimate to this biome by putting in like common bees. That's interesting. I want to try that. Okay, let's take a look. So we have one of these guys. Now these only work in the nether. Oh, acclimatizing item slot. Interesting. Does it tell you what you use to acclimatize? Not in progress. Well, we have some, let's try this. Ice. Let's see. Can we use ice shards to change this guy? That did not work. Nope. Interesting. So you could put all your breedable bees in here, but interesting. So I wonder, we have to figure out, requires acclimatizing items to function. Right, but what are acclimatizing items? That's what's interesting, because I'm not exactly sure what they would be. So that might be something that we're going to have to investigate. If any of you do know, please leave some comments in the comments section to let me know, because this is new to me. I haven't worked on this one yet, and I haven't really worked with the splicer. Those two machines are kind of a little bit out of my element. I'm used to the other ones, but those two machines are a little bit different on what needs to be done. But oh, look at this. So we've got a few arborist things. So let's put these here. All right, friends. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you were able to get yourself further and further into the genetics of bees, trees, and flowers. There's a ton of stuff to do, and we can obviously automate this process even further by, piping in the sequences to this and piping these blank sequences back into here, and rinse and repeat, so we can kind of have this running 24/7. We can do that. That's not a big deal. But the inoculator we're only going to be using when we need to create more bees with the particular trait. So really the first few steps are the isolator and the sequencer, and getting as many things and many traits as you can into your gene bank, so that way you can start really manipulating your bees and getting the bees into the type of more pure and perfected states that you want to get them into. So we're going to be working further and further and more into these types of processes to try to improve our bees and make them more functional for our needs. So with that being said, what we want to do is when we get some fertile bees or more the higher fertility rates, what we're going to want to do is probably increase some of these so that they have a higher yield and they produce more, specifically for any of these bees that we have in our hives, because we could just have them producing, if this does, let's say it does 10 nuggets an hour, we can improve it to 20 or 30 or 40 nuggets an hour and really kind of ramp up our production of the items we have in our hives, which is really cool. So, I mean, that's all free. None of this is running on power. All of this is just running, you know, as long as it's daylight. And even then with these, I don't need them anymore. And actually a bunch of these bees are actually nocturnal. They run at night. So it doesn't even matter that, as you can see, these all run at night when it's nighttime, because I don't even have the lighting or the rain. I think they're also rain tolerant as well. So I definitely need to take a bunch of those bees and try to get the traits off of them. Same with those guys and same with those guys, so we can improve all of these bees and get them to the point where we don't need those extra blocks and they can just run in regular alvearies. And then we'll have to start working on frame production. Oh man, there's so much to do. We're so slammed. We got so many things, but there you go. That's your brief tutorial on how to get into bee genetics and well, bee or tree or pollen genetics. And in previous versions, you could also do butterflies as well. This version does not have butterflies or lepidopteri. I'm sure I butchered that word. But look at these animations. They're really cool on top. They're tough to see, but if you get really close to them, you can see it like working. And this one has, it's getting all its sequences, DNA sequencing, and this one you can see it kind of injecting the larvae. And this one even has things going on when you're trying to improve a charge of a serum. This one's going to finish. Oh, almost. Won't see it finish this time around, but really what it'll do is just move down here and another one will move over here. But what I want to do is take that out and then recharge the serum so you can see how, well, actually we already ran through that so you guys kind of saw it with the effects, but is this almost done? Yeah, almost. But all right, friends, well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please stomp the like button. I hope it was super informative for you. As always, please like and share your favorite social media. Catch you guys in the next episode.